Okay, so this story is about becoming a grandmother.
Well, the beginning is becoming a mother, but it's nothing like becoming when your first grandchild is born. And Christopher was my first. And I was working at the University of California, San Diego hospitals. And I was on duty that day that he was born. And he was born in a birth center just 3 blocks down the street from me where I was working. So I got the call in the morning that they were at the birth center. So I spent most of the day that he was born running up and down those 3 blocks to see how it was progressing. His other grandmother was there. So then, after Christopher was born, I remember working and having a child. So I wasn't going to let Lori, his mother, be burdened down with that. So usually on weekends I'd ask to have him at my house. So he'd come over. Ralph would bring him over. And it just made my heart overjoyed when I'd open the door and little Christopher would be in his daddy's arms and he'd reach out his arms for me. And that really made me feel well. And he was a very good little boy. And he had a cute little boy too. But he loved pendies. That was pendies. And all through school, he used to come and stop in and see us. And usually was there and stayed on weekends. Then a couple of years later came Jason. He was entirely different than Christopher, but he also was a good little boy. And one of my nurses was through having babies, and she wanted to know if I would like the crib that they had. I said, sure. So I had a crib that I could put them in to sleep. And Jason, what I remember most about him as a toddler, he wasn't talking. And we thought he should be talking, but he just wouldn't talk. So he liked me to read the The 3 Little Kittens book to him. And one day I read the book to him, and he was ready to go out and play. So I heard him going down the hall saying, meow, 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 and that's the way I used to end up the 3 Little Kittens book, and I knew he could talk, but he wouldn't talk to us. And they always had playmates with the little boy back behind us. But I don't remember too much except that they were good little kids. And by the time Jason was up a year old, it was time for Lynne to be born. And December 17th was her birthday. Anyway, I was at work again, and I had to go out. The hospital is almost downtown, and the campus is up in La Jolla. So they had a university bus that would take the interns and that worked between the hospital and their school, medical school. And excuse me, I had needed to go out to the campus for some business. I don't remember what it was. And so I was out there a couple hours. As I came in the door, it seemed like everybody pounced on me. The nurses and the interns, the doctors, and even the people who did the cleaning and the maids, that they have been paging you like mad. And Dorothy Vernor wasn't answering her page. So I went and answered it. And my granddaughter Lynne was being born. So I left work that day and went to the hospital. And when she was born, I knew she was going to be intelligent. She was so alert for a newborn. And her big eyes were just looking all around, it seemed. And Lynne was a joy to have a little granddaughter. And she'd come over to our house, and by that time I had inherited a high chair from somebody. And I'd put her in the high chair, and she'd say, "Licious, Grandma, licious." And after she got a little older and could talk, well, she called me one day, and she says, "Grandma, do you have any of Aunt Bev's chocolate pie there?" And I said, "Yes, I have a chocolate pie here, but I made it." "Oh, it wouldn't be as good as what Aunt Bev makes." So she didn't want that. I said, I have a pumpkin pie. You make the best pumpkin pies, and my Grandma Kay makes the best apple pies, and Aunt Bev makes the best chocolate pies. So I'll have a piece of chocolate pumpkin pie. Save me a piece when I get there. And they quite often stayed when Ken and Gail would want to go out for dinner or something and have them. But Catherine, I couldn't participate in her birth because she was due at the end of November, and we were leaving on a trip to Fiji and New Zealand and Australia, November 6th. And before I got out of bed, or before I was even awake in the morning, Ken called me, and he said, Lynne is being born today.
Catherine? Lynne or Catherine?
Catherine.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Where are you?" He said, Gail's water broke early that morning, and they were at the hospital for Catherine's birth. And I said, "Where's Lynne?" And he says, "I've got her." I said, "Would you like me to pick her up?" And he said, "Would you?" So, yeah, I had planned on resting because we had a night flight over to Fiji. And so I got dressed and got down to the hospital and picked up Lynne and brought her home. And then Catherine was about 2 or 3 weeks premature. And so they had her in the nursery by the time I got to the hospital to see her, because she was a little jaundiced. so I could only see her through a window.
So you didn't get to hold her until you came home from the trip?
No. But I was glad that she was born before I left.
Right.
Didn't have to think about it all the time I'm over there.